Hey everybody, welcome back to CHALLENGEYOURSELF.BLOG. Today's edition we're going to be going over Elite Dangerous Horizons in VR. I'm going to be using the T.Flight HOTAS X, and it's going to be a breathtaking show. So if you're crunched for time, there's a star flyby at 1.5 minutes. I have some combat at 9 minutes, and I'm going to be docking at a spaceport at 16 minutes. So let's get started. The first thing you see after the emblem goes away, you'll be in a docking station. You'll see the ship that you were flying in last. You look around, there's advertisements and whatnot. There's a lot of heavy equipment for the hydraulic lifting system that we'll get to that in a little bit. You see the standard issue Sidewinder. I didn't do any modifications to it. This is straight out of the box. So I do have other ships, but I didn't want to fly this mission with one of those. So last time I was playing this, I parked next to a star, and that's how we're going to start this video. So as you can see, looking through the canopy, you can see the flares and the magnetic field, how all the plasma is like traveling, from one point to another on the star. Once I jump into Super Cruise, you'll see that I can kind of look through the side of the canopy, and it's amazing the detail that there is in the star. I'm kind of looking around the back of my ship. You can see all the consoles. Now what's interesting is when you're not in VR, you basically have your standard panel views. You look left, you look right, you kind of look up at your communication and info stuff. When you have VR, you have free movement of your eyesight, and it really adds to the realism in the game. It gives you a whole different perspective when you have the headset on. When you have earphones on, you're completely immersed in the game, and it's amazing. In the combat scene coming up a little bit later, you'll see my head kind of jerk to the left or to the right, and it's because you'll hear a ship jump into your local quadrant, and you don't know exactly where it's at. It's kind of like you're in the woods and you hear a branch snap, and your head kind of looks, quickly to what direction that was in. You get the same feeling of realism with a VR headset. So here I'm doing the Hyperspace Jump. When you're doing this on a laptop, top or desktop, it's stunning the first time you do this, but in VR, you can see all the stars and the clusters and the dust, flying by, and that approaching star that you're coming to, you can see it growing, and it gives you kind of a thrill as you feel like you're about to land in that local quadrant. After I arrive, I head over to the Nav Beacon. I wanted to check out to see if there was any activity going on over there, if there was any bounties to be had. After I drop out of Super Cruise, the first thing that shows up on the screen is a handful of ships. You look around, you can hear them zooming by. The immersion factor is huge because on the left, on the right, you can hear the ships zooming around. and then it's time to check for bounties. You target a ship, you wait for it to determine whether it checks out as clean or wanted. And I do this a few times just to kind of get a feel for what's going on in the area. And the nice thing about the HOTAS X, as I'm using the joystick in my right hand, the amount of control that you have is phenomenal. You give it a little bit of rotation. It's not your typical analog 0-1 all or nothing. The joystick has some sensitivity to it that gives you that little extra control over using keyboard and mouse. What's kind of funny in this particular scene, the amount of ships that are flying around and that are so close. There's a scene here in a couple of minutes where I'm attacking a wanted ship, and at one point there's a ship that just kind of goes right over my head. I could kind of hear it, but when I looked up and I saw it, it actually kind of shocked me for a second. I was like, whoa, that feels really close. And we start picking away at this guy. Now keep in mind, there's probably some hardcore players that are gonna not like what I'm doing here. They probably think I really suck, and it's been a while since I've actually used the HOTAS X because I've been playing more on my PlayStation lately. But I don't have any special equipment. This is your standard loadout when you first buy a ship, or if this is your first time. So it takes me a little bit longer to kill this guy now. And it's also kind of funny because this guy doesn't even fight back. He's an AI. I'm in solo play, but it's funny how he just kind of avoids me, and I'm flying like right behind him. I'm trying to frantically kill this guy as fast as I can with crappy equipment. Because I'm afraid that he's going to jump out of the system, but he doesn't. He just kind of keeps on going. It's interesting that the PlayStation doesn't have VR for Elite Dangerous. I don't quite understand that. I think it would be a huge thing for the community. I think it would go over very well. But I'm not really sure what the reasoning is. that's kind of strange about this fight is usually when you find a wanted person in the game and you start pegging them with your weapons, they tend to, the other ships in the area tend to also attack, and I'm kind of surprised that nobody else is actually attacking this guy. It's kind of like the AI is just there for the show. And after picking away at this guy for a few minutes, finally he, gives it up and blows up a perfect storm of debris and loot. And then I do a flyby. I get as close as I can to one of the materials that he drops, and then I run into it to let it bounce off the hull, just for fun. Even the materials and the small stuff have a pretty high amount of detail to them. After it hits the hull, it goes off spinning into the void. After finishing combat and bouncing that material off my hull, I decide to take a trip to the nearest space station.
Frameshift drive charging. 4, 3, 2, 1, engage.
And as I approach the space station, I look at the blue marble that would be this world, and it remarkably looks a lot like Earth. It's really a breathtaking view. On the sunny side, you can see, all the land masses and water. On the dark side, you can see the city lights. One of the interesting things about this game is you can land on a lot of moons, but you can't land on those type of planets yet. I'm not sure if they're working on, changing that in the future, but you can get into the upper atmosphere, but that's as close as you can get for now. One little drawback to the VR that I've found is if you're trying to use your keyboard to go between panel selections, if you're trying to use your keyboard for selecting stuff, that you'll find that you'll kind of tip the VR headset up a little bit, hit the keys. It might be a little easier if you're using keyboard and mouse, but when you're using the HOTAS X and you're trying to use the keyboard, that it can be a little bit discombobulating. And as you approach the station, then you get to see all the little details, all the little metal plates that they welded together. And when you start to land in the space station, you can see other ships that are entering or leaving the station. All the little details of, handrails and radar things spinning. I look up, I can see a couple ships taking off, one coming in. Actually, that one just grazed the other one, and you could see the shield. You could see the shields were activated for a second. Surprisingly, security didn't blow both of them up. They used to be pretty stringent. one of the ways that people used to grief each other would be if you had a very expensive ship and someone like myself in the Sidewinder, the Sidewinder is free, so they would wait for one of the big ships to come in and they would ram the large ship with the free ship, and the security would blow both of you up and that person would be out a lot of credits. It was extremely frustrating and almost it was almost game breaking for a lot of people, and that was kind of why I play mostly in solo play unless somebody invites me to their game. There's a steady stream of ships, some coming in, some leaving. The detail is phenomenal. And here you can see the ship coming up from below. Nope, let me backtrack that. So here you can see the docking plate coming up from below where that ship had just left. And over there you can see the ship coming up through the docking bay. And when you're in VR, sometimes I'll probably get some grief for this because I use the auto dock, but in VR, at least in my opinion, when I'm flying and I use the auto dock, I just sit there and I look up at all the neat stuff that's going on, around me. I check out the small details of stuff as you're passing it by. In the background, you can see, and I'll have to zoom it in, but you can see little cars going along those lighted paths. It's like a road that goes along the circumference of the room. So there's so much to this game, I can't speak highly enough of it. So thanks for watching this video. If you liked it and want to see more, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and please share this video. Appreciate it. Talk to you soon.